Hello, and welcome to this evening's webinar. Welcome. Um, I'm so excited about this webinar. We have a team member, Justin Harris, who is so beloved by both his team and by all of our clients that we decided to feature him. And we get so many um, emails. We love Justin, and with questions to him that, it's been hard to answer all of them as the years have gone on. It'll be easier now that the Facebook group is really taking off. But in the meantime, we had this stockpile of really great questions. And so I thought, why not bring him on here and just ask him the questions? And then at the end, all of you can ask him any additional questions he has. So without further ado, welcome, Justin, the beloved, to the webinar.
Thanks, Tracy, and thank you everybody for showing up. I would like to acknowledge right off the bat the slight hint of narcissism in what I'm about to do, because normally these webinars have, a more focused topic and we talk about genes, and usually it's me talking about you, and tonight it's y'all asking me questions directly. So my purpose here is to really just give the best quality advice possible. And man, I'm really honored that the DNA company would feature me. And thank you so much, everybody, for showing up. And thank you, Dr. Steady, for moderating so that it's not me sitting here embarrassed about what I have to do.
Well, thank you for being willing to do this for us, Justin. I know that everyone's going to get a lot out of it. You have a lot of wisdom to share. So I wanted to start out with a few questions that would just introduce you to anyone who hasn't met you before, because we do have new people coming into our ecosystem all the time, which is lovely. Welcome. And after I ask you these, then we're just going to go quickly through the poll questions, and then we'll get started with those letters. So, Justin, how did you get here? What brought you into health and wellness as a vocation?
Yeah, my wounded healer journey, right? Um, I believe that adversity introduces you to yourself, and I really think that the purpose of this life is to navigate the gauntlet that is laid out before each of us, so that we can then arrive with answers for others. Right? Each one of us has a gauntlet, and it's kind of specified to us. But then, as you work through your own problems, you turn around and recognize that, hey, now I have some wisdom. I have some gems that I can go ahead and gift to others. And for me, it's no different. I had a lot of issues growing up. I had like behavioral issues, and admittedly, I was a troublemaker as well. Like the first time that I ever got suspended from school, I was in grade 6. So, and that was not the last time that I got suspended from school. But the health side of things came in when I was on my literal 13th birthday. I've got this big, long, history of skin problems, actually, is what I struggled with. And my actual day I turned 13 was the day that I got my first breakout. And little did I know that it was going to be kind of the first of a very long stretch of issues that I was going to end up having with my skin. And not knowing any better, I went to my family doctor, because that's what you do, especially when you're 13. You don't know any better. And I was prescribed antibiotics. It was called tetracycline, and with no guidance at all about how to, co-administer with probiotics or how to cycle it or anything like that. I ended up being on these probiotics from age 13 all the way through till I almost turned 18. So you're talking my entire puberty, I was on antibiotics straight. And that really caused a lot of issues with me. Like, I'm sure it just wrecked my microbiome and things. And it kind of started this vendetta that I have against mainstream medicine, where they don't ask a lot of questions and it's very rapid fire. And to be honest with me, it created this combination of physical and mental illness that left me pretty much unable to deal with other people and unable to deal with school. And I ultimately ended up dropping out of high school. I went back later, but I couldn't handle people. And the way that I coped with that was drugs and alcohol. I would be sitting there in English class as a 15-year-old, having just taken like several shots of vodka, literally, just to deal with the social anxiety of it all. So, I ended up dropping out, and I even got to a point of suicidal depression as a very young person. I even planned out how I would do it and all these things. My meticulous brain, even in that topic, was still working. So I was planning it out and all these things. Fast forward, the tetracycline had completely stopped working for me, and I was switched to something called Accutane, which I believe has been pulled off the market since then. It's like this really concentrated overdose of vitamin A, and it's just terrible. I mean, it cooks your liver. It's really not good for you. It was one of the worst experiences of my life, and it was really intense. So There I was at almost 6 feet tall. I was about 120 pounds. I was just emaciated, high school dropout, suicidal, and I was just ready to move on, to the next life. My mind was very drastic and very extreme and things at that time. And as divine providence would have it, we so happened to have found a house in another town. My parents recognized where I was at, and for other reasons as well, we decided to uproot and go somewhere else. And I got that little bit of separation from the party scene and things like that. And I recognized that without alcohol and drugs, I don't even know who I am. Like, I have no ability to cope with life. And in the new town that I was in, I had no friends. So I kind of just had this time and this isolation. And one day, I just went for a run. I just said, what do I got? There's nothing else. I might as well try to get healthy here. So I went for a run and I got home and I was like, that felt good. Let me have a protein shake. Let me actually try to do the obvious thing and get a little bit healthy here. And it just kind of dawned on me that, hey, if I'm going to stop self harming and going in that direction, let's not hang out in the middle. Let's actually try to build and do the opposite. Let's see how that goes. So I started becoming obsessed with health and nutrition. And before you know it, I was creating a whole different man. Something different started to kind of come about in me. I went back to school. I ended up graduating with honors. I got my first personal training certificate and I started doing that. And yeah, before you knew it, I was like on a mission and ready to kind of take this second chance at life and help others now with some of the things that I learned about how to deal with life. So everything that I ever was, I was now armed with everything I needed to actually help others with those same problems. And so I went on that mission to rebuild myself. And I just now really want to be a part of something that provides that alternative to mainstream medicine. And so I'm really happy that I arrived where I did, because now I have so many answers and I kind of get where it is to be in those lower states. And now I have all the ammunition I need to build others up. So it's been quite a journey, and I'm grateful for it all.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that and for being so vulnerable. And I would imagine that there are going to be some people who are going to hear that story and think of themselves or their child or their friend's child or whatever, and think you can really pull yourself out of what feels a little bit like rock bottom. You're living proof of that, and now you've gone on just to help other people in that situation. So thank you so much for sharing that with everyone. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. And you're also getting lots of love in the chat, and some other people talking about what ages they were when they first got suspended, things like that. So you're not alone in navigating that as a kid. Um, so who do you admire most in the health, biohacking, in that sort of space? Who do you admire most in that space and why?
Yeah, so it's important to say that I take everything and everyone, including myself, with an absolute grain of salt. There's people who at one time I thought were spouting out the truth, and then I came later to be like, I don't know so much about that. As far as people that have been pretty consistent and that I still admire, like Mark Sisson is definitely one of those individuals. If you're unfamiliar, he wrote the Primal Blueprint, and my first health coaching certification was Primal. I'm still very much a primal coach. I just have way more tools now to personalize it with functional genomics. So, Mark Sisson is the man. He's, I think, 70 years old now, and he's still got a six-pack of abs and very healthy. And he's always had great intentions. Primal Kitchen is fantastic. I use a lot of their products. And then I must say, Ben Greenfield as well. I still religiously listen to his podcast. I love his take, and he incorporates faith in a lot of different things. And I've just consistently got good information from him as a resource. So I'm a big fan of him. And then it's all my colleagues, yourself included, Dr. Tracy. Like, literally, I learn stuff just from listening to my own social circle now. And that's the best thing ever. It's so nourishing to be able to be like, hey, my friends teach me things. I listen to them talk and I go, God damn, you're brilliant. Like, how did you become my friend? Like, this is unbelievable. I should never have made it this far. So yourself, the rest of my colleagues, the captain, Tracy Wood, I mean, she's got this unbelievable ability to turn vision into reality like nothing I've ever seen. So our community is something that has a lot of great and brilliant people in it. The people we have on, our listeners, this is a fantastic community, and I draw inspiration from everybody. I love it.
Thank you. And obviously we all admire you. That's why you're here. Um, um, Then I bet you've seen some real train wreck advice being handed out. What was the worst of the worst, and how do you know whose advice to trust?
Yeah, one of the worst pieces of advice I ever followed was the Canada Food Guide. Like it's funny to say, but it's like it says to eat like 6 to 8 servings of grains, and it's really outdated. And that was the first thing I ever did when I first started trying to get healthy was follow that. I didn't lose weight eating 8 servings of grains every day, funny enough, so it was not that useful to me. As far as other really bad health advice, I would say that this grind culture thing that we all have in North America. I mean, I admire the dedication and things of a lot of these influencers, but this idea of never sleeping and just totally massacring your nervous system by just grinding and never ending work. The thing you got to remember is that you can grind your knife and grind your knife and sharpen it. Before you know it, the knife is whittled down to a nub, right? You can't just keep doing that. So this idea of homeostasis and balance, I mean, that's a lot of what my health coaching is now. And I think anyone who tells you otherwise doesn't have your health's best interest at heart.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And what's the biggest warning you give people when it comes to selecting supplements and biohacking tools?
I think one of the better things to consider here is that this is meant to complement the rest of your strategies, right? So, like, you never build a house from the roof down, you build it from the foundation up. And supplements are one of these things. People come into consultations with me and they want to go right to that subject because it's kind of sexy, it's convenient, it's one of those things that takes minimal effort to have an impact. And that's great. But there's this concept in health coaching that I talk about all the time called moving from general to specific. I don't start specific, I start general because people come to me asking for a testosterone booster and they eat processed food and they don't exercise and they're not sleeping well. And they're like, well, let me take this testosterone booster because my libido is low. Well, understand that epigenetics suggests that there is all manner of input that matters there, right? The way that we're eating, the way that we're hydrating and hygiene and breath and grounding and getting hot and getting cold and getting minerals, all of those things matter the most first. And then we select ingredients for a reason and we put them on top of the remainder of our strategies and they complement and amplify what the rest of our efforts are. So I think it's mainly that when it comes to supplements. Also, don't outsource your logic for marketing, right? If your bullshit detector is going off, just beep, 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 it's happening for a reason, and you should trust your instinct because you are your own greatest expert. You're more of an expert on yourself than I could ever be on you, even having the genes and things handy. So if you watch something and you go, trust that because you're probably correct about it.
Thank you so much, Justin. So let's pull up our poll. Just curious about what our audience who's here right now is thinking. Um, all right. So the question was about nutrition related topics, and it looks like the big winner was supplementation strategies based on genetic profile. And then it sounds like genes affecting nutrient absorption and metabolism. And then the others were kind of evenly dispersed in terms of food sensitivities and methylation and things like that. Then the next question was, what aspects of sleep and recovery are you most curious about? And it looks like most people were curious about optimizing sleep quality and duration and the connection between sleep and detoxification and sleep supplements and whether they work for your genetics. So those were the three big buckets that the answers fell into. Then regarding stress management and mental health, we've got understanding genetic stress response, cortisol patterns and HPA axis function, and adaptogen selection for your biochemistry were the three most popular answers there. And what exercise and fitness topics interested the audience the most? Exercise recommendations for metabolic health. Oh, no, I totally missed anti-aging and longevity exercise strategies. So that's so interesting because I think what we're going to hear from Justin, and I could be wrong, is that more isn't always better. But I could be wrong. We're here to listen to Justin, not to me, but I have been on webinars with him before. So we'll see what he has to say. And which biohacking or optimization strategies? The one with the most votes is longevity protocols and anti-aging interventions and peptides and hormone optimization. So thank you all for answering the poll questions. It really does help us to help you. But tonight we have letters that I'm going to read. Um, so here comes the first one. Dear Justin, I've been following your journey and I'm so inspired. I'd love to know, what does your morning routine look like? And I'm curious about your supplement stack. Do you have any go-to products that have made a real difference for you? Thank you for all the motivation you provide. And that's from Sarah.
All right, thanks, Sarah. So, show me your habits, and I'll read you your future. Right? That's what this is all about. My morning is all about creating something called PMA, right? The positive mental attitude. Because if I approach the world without having achieved my own PMA, I can't positively impact others. So it's really important that I get my own bullshit out of the way first, and that allows me to be, a high quality coach. So my morning routine is different in the winter than it is in the summer. If it's summertime, I really rely on nature more so than hacks and technology and things like that. But right now, being February, I do use a little bit more gadgetry and things in the winter. Being in British Columbia, we have a real winter, and so I need to use what I need to use to kind of get the epigenetic signals to get my cells rolling and things. So typically, what that looks like is I wake up at about 6. And I have my PEMF mat right next to my bed. I use one called Higher Dose, and it's like this infrared PEMF mat. It's got the negative ions and things built into it with the amethyst crystals. It heats up via infrared, and then it has the different PEMF settings on there as well. So as soon as I wake up, I kind of fumble around and I find the button and I turn it on. It takes about 20 minutes for it to heat up. So while it's heating up, I get out of bed, I go to the bathroom, and I do my hygiene practice, which is typically tongue scraping. Like I have one of those copper tongue scrapers. And then I have like charcoal dental floss, and I use a company called Primal Life Organics. And they have this great toothpaste that's got like clays and different things in there. So I do all that stuff, and then I fill my water. I have a big tall glass of water before I have coffee or anything else, and I use reverse osmosis to clean it. I just have like a countertop reverse osmosis filter. It's a company called Aqua True. It takes a little bit, but it fills it up. And then I put some Redmond real salt in there, and I put some lime juice in there. And then I get real hacky. So I take the water and I put it in this. I have this infinity block, it's called, from a company called Lila Quantum. And it's a block where anything that you put between the two plates gets charged with quantum energy. It's a little woo woo. And I know that I just said bullshit detector, beep, beep, beep. But I think that this one's legitimate, and they do have a lot of third party testing and studies that they provide. So I charge my water up, I guzzle that down. And then by the time I do all of that, my mat is heated up. And so I shut it down. I lay down on the mat and I do a brain tap on the mat. The mat has like an energizing setting. So I do that. And I do typically like an alpha brainwave kind of a brain tap. And I call it putting on my armor, right? Like putting on my stoic armor for the day so that no matter what approaches me, I'm grounded and I'm set and I'm ready to serve others with my day. The whole thing is that I wake up and I kind of just report above, and I just say, how can I best serve everyone today? And I have to be right in order to do that. I have to embody the teaching. If I show up to my sessions and I'm in a mood and I haven't been following my own protocols and I don't look or feel healthy, I just can't be a quality coach. So the embodiment of the teaching is what really matters there. Once I do my brain tap, I'm feeling good. I'm hydrated. Things are starting to move. And then I go to my inversion table. I have some back issues, so I like to spend some time upside down every day. I go there for 5 to 10 minutes, and then I jump on my vibration plate. I love vibration in the morning. It actually counts for a lot of steps, and there's lymphatic drainage and circulation benefits and things that you get. I do breath work while I'm on the mat, on the plate, by the way. I don't recommend that unless you're a professional like me, because you can get a little lightheaded and you are standing on a vibration plate. So maybe that's not an official recommendation. And then once I'm done there, I go and I make my superfood coffee where I put minerals and mushrooms and things like that in there. And I dive into my dad duties for the day and the rest of the morning. As far as current supplements are concerned, I mean, there's kind of a revolving door of different stuff that I like to try, but currently in my stack, in the morning, I do Fatty 15 and I do vitamin D3 and K2 with my coffee. I do methylene blue 5 days on, 2 days off. What else? I like to do the mud water, right? I put that into my coffee as well. It's like it's touted as a coffee alternative. I just put it in my coffee to supercharge it. Bean minerals, I'm a fan of the fulvic and the humic acid. I put that into my coffee as well. And then I like to mess around with ketones. I cycle through peptides throughout the year, so I do different ones because you want to keep the receptor sites sensitive there. And then when I go to eat my breakfast, I'll have digestive enzymes and TUDCA and probiotics and things like that. Beyond that, surrounding my exercise, I do some hydrogen water, maybe some carbon 60 to clear some free radicals. That's something I have as a genetic issue. So I do that. And at night before bed, I do our deep calm supplement, actually, because I really like kava. I'm sure there's more, but that's kind of the rundown. And I don't want you guys to be here all day. Supplements are a hobby of mine, right? I'm also in charge of the Black Label program. Like, I'm always thinking about ingredients and things like that. So the rest of this webinar could be me messing around with ingredients, but that's kind of the go-to day by day.
Can I ask a follow-up question to Sarah's question, which is how long does the first part, then before you eat, of your routine take? Does that take like 3 hours? Does that take 30 minutes? How long does that take you?
It sounds like it takes 3 hours, but it really doesn't. It's, the mat takes 20 minutes to heat up, and then the session that I do on there is 20 minutes. So it has 20-minute blocks where you do 20 minutes of PEMF, and a lot of these brain tap sessions that I do are 20 minutes as well. So I aim for that to be a 20-minute practice, and then the vibration plate is 10 minutes. I'm 5 to 10 minutes on the vibe plate. Janet's asking what brand. I don't think it matters a lot for that. The one I use is called Life Pro, and the unit is called a Rumblex, and it's got like all these different settings for vibration, and it's one of my favorite things. Honestly, I love the vibe plate. So really, this is like an hour routine. It doesn't take me very long. Sometimes I'll add in some foam rolling or whatever, but habit stacking goes a really long way. And I'm telling you, if you just set up a few things to get your shit right before you approach the world, you're going to be really glad that you put in that hour. It's very important to me that I not lose my temper on anyone or come out of character. Like, my goal every day by the end of the day is to look back and say, I didn't break character. I didn't snake anyone. I didn't insult anyone. I wasn't rude. I wasn't, crass. I was grounded and with the mindset of serving other people and elevating the world in the ways that I can. So I need to be right to do that because I tend to wake up quite negative. I know how much I have to do before I can shut it down and go to bed again. So I get my stuff right and I keep my vibration and my frequency high because that way I can elevate other people's frequency. And if I come in at a low frequency, the only thing I can do is drop the frequency of others. Tesla will tell you it's all about vibration and frequency. That's what the secrets of the universe are. And we all have that energy exchange. Even over Zoom, I have an energy exchange with whoever I'm talking to. So I have a responsibility to keep my vibe high because that's how I raise up other people.
Thank you, Justin. Our next question is from Jessica, who writes, Hi, Justin. Your fitness journey is amazing. I'm wondering, how many days per week do you work out, and did your genes help you decide that? What does your workout routine actually look like? If your genes aren't ideal for doing as much as you'd want, how do you compensate for that? Would love to hear your thoughts.
Thanks, Jessica. That's a really good question. So you are the compounding interest, right, of showing up every day. You really are the sum total, right, of your daily actions and decisions. And I move my body every day, and it's just some days I do catabolic work, and then some days I do anabolic work like yoga or whatever. But there's not a day that goes by where I'm just like, it's a rest day and I'm fully on the couch, unless I friggin' injured myself, right? But in the exception of that, I'm always moving my body. And what it looks like right now in the wintertime, I usually lift like 3 to 4 days a week. I use something called the conjugate method, which was made famous by Louis Simmons, and Westside Barbell is his gym. It's one of the strongest gyms in the world. It consistently produces top 10 powerlifters over and over again. And they use this conjugate method with different styles of lifting. And that's usually a 3 to 4 day full body split. And then I also train Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and boxing a couple times a week as well. I count that as my cardio. I don't overdo cardio because I do have that suboptimal SOD2 gene. So my body doesn't clear free radicals very well. And if I were to go crazy with cardio, I would literally be making myself older, right? So we don't want to do that. It's appropriate and we get the stimulus, but then I move on to other things. So I'm working out almost every day, but eventually I get to a point where my nervous system is off and my HRV is in the tank or my resting heart rate is up. And it just tells me that it's time for one of those parasympathetic anabolic days. And I won't do anything crazy. I won't beat the crap out of myself. I'll go for a walk, do some breath work, get a massage, something like that, and then hit it again. As far as how I manage living not necessarily in concordance with my genes, because I'm still working out more than I probably should with the suboptimal SOD2, is I really prioritize anti-inflammatory stuff surrounding my workout. And I don't mean ibuprofen here. I mean grounding. I mean doing sauna post-workout. I really pay attention to doing parasympathetic breath after my workout. I don't think people do that enough. I think that when you stress your body, right, this is a hormetic stressor. You get to a point where your body goes, we're going to die if you do one more repetition here. So there's this stress involved. And then after your workout, if you can just take a couple of minutes to do like really slow on purpose exhales, it restores that nervous system back into that parasympathetic state. And you're going to recover a heck of a lot better. Beyond that, like I mentioned earlier, I also do things like hydrogen water, either before or after like a harder workout. And I also use peptides and things like carbon 60 because it helps to accelerate the clearance of free radicals. So it's about inflammation, it's about toxins that get built up, and then it's about the nervous system and knowing how to gear up and gear down.
Awesome. Thank you. So this next one from Emily, you touched on some of these things, but well, I'm just going to read it to you. Hey, Justin, I really admire how balanced you seem. How do you manage your stress? And how do you find the motivation to stick with your program even on the really hard days? Appreciate everything you share. To which I might add, like, you do that in the morning. What if something happens in the middle of the day that kind of throws you off, right?
Yeah, and it usually does, right? Honestly, like, that's the morning routine, like I mentioned, it's the stoic armor. So that really helps, but it doesn't necessarily last all day. I have to reinforce it later on. Your stress threshold, it represents the ceiling to your potential, right? Like the more you can take when life throws that gauntlet at you, the more that you can deal with and move forward again. That's what really helps. And I have a lot of stress in my life, to be honest. I mean, I'm a stepfather and a caregiver for a girl with special needs. And, my daughter, she's got a very rare and complicated condition. And, I watch my kid struggle every day. It weighs on me, at any given point, my day can and will become very frustrating and stressful. So I think part of what keeps me going is the mental narrative that I select, right? I remind myself that life happens for you, not to you, right? If you say, this is happening to me, that's happening to me, well, that's a scarcity victim mindset. And that actually compounds the problem. Whereas if you can take a breath and say, life happens for you, life happens for you, this is here, this challenge is designed for me. It was designed by Providence to level me up in the corresponding area, right? So, like, I didn't have any patience before. And now, watching my little lady struggle the way that she does and having to be there to support, it's taught me massive patience, right? So that challenge was for me. It was designed for me so that I could be a better man and serve the people that I care about. So when things come up, I try to remind myself, life happens for you, and you end up having to see the silver lining so many times that in the end, I have a lot of silver. Right. So that's where it comes from. And the motivation piece is interesting. So there's this concept that I work on with people where I get them to picture their 10.0 self, like just the best of the best, their highest self, the best you that you could possibly imagine. And I mean across the board: fitness, finance, physical attractiveness, right? The way that you turn up. And it's like, I picture Justin 10.0. What is that dude's energy like? What does it feel like when that dude comes in the room? How does the energy shift when that dude is in the room? And if I want to be my highest self, then I have to act like him. and I actually have to think like him as well. So when situations come up, a really good strategy that I use is I say to myself, what would Justin 10.0 say about this? What would his actions and energy and thoughts be right here in this situation? How would he respond to this person? And what are his daily energy, thoughts, and actions? The 10.0 version of me that lives in my mind, he can bench press just a little more than me, right? He's just a little bit calmer. He dresses that little bit better. He's a bit more stoic, etc. So day by day, if I am now comparing myself to my highest, what happens is you start to embody it because you start to uphold that set of standards. And before you know it, you're just becoming your highest form. This isn't a perfect strategy, but I'm saying that if you can keep it in your mind, what would my absolute utmost say or do right here? And you just start doing that, be that. Next thing you know, you're that. Right. So that's something that keeps me going all the time. It's they say comparison is the thief of joy. If you're comparing yourself to what your utmost ought to be, it's not stealing your joy. It's creating your next self and your better self for the world. So that's a good strategy, folks. Create your 10.0 and then just say to yourself over and over again, what would they do? What would they do? Do that, be that.
So, um, I feel like I need to point out that he also helps other people to become their 10.0 self or their version 2 or their version 232, right? Because we're all ever evolving beings. And Justin really gives a lot to his clients in terms of wisdom and in terms of his heart. Um, all of that said, we understand that concierge medicine can be. Rightfully expensive because he's worth it, and the knowledge that you get and the programming that you get to become that self is totally worth it. But we are instituting in some cases installment plans. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I'm thinking I want to sign up for a program with Justin. And so if like me, that's something that you are just sitting there listening to him and thinking that would be amazing, like I want that, then now there's this new option for all of you who may have been coming for a while and wishing you could do that. And it just wasn't something that you could do all at once. There now is this 0% interest installment plan that you can sign up for. So I didn't mean to interrupt the flow. I don't know, I was just feeling like this gratitude for you, Justin, and wanting other people to benefit from your wisdom and experience. Okay, enough of my talking. Okay, dear Justin, I travel a lot for work and it's my biggest challenge. How do you stick with your healthy routines when you're traveling? Any tips would be so helpful. Best, Michael.
Yeah, Michael, that's a great question. Thank you. This is common, right? People who have to travel for work. It's just something where you've got to find a way to uphold your own standards. And one of the concepts that I bring into this conversation is that there's this concept called not how, but who, right? It's like, it's not how can I pull this off every day, but who do I need to become to pull this off every day? When we stop saying how and we start saying who, then you can put that person in any environment and they will instinctively create the best case scenario, right? And that's the same thing with anything. Finance, it's like, how can I make six figures? Well, no. Who do I have to be worth six figures, to attract six figures, right? So when we stop saying how and we start saying who, we start to embody the teaching, like I mentioned before, and we become the person that can do it. Like we went to the Vegas conference, A4M, it's called, the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. And the first morning that we were there, I did this barefoot workout on the lawn. The whole team probably thought I was bananas, but they know me well enough. I did 10 minutes of plyo push-ups and then 10 minutes of alternating jumping lunges. And I was all set, and I was in my bedroom at the Airbnb and I was stretching and doing breath work and all these things. And it's like, I think the mindset is the creation of the best case scenario and not the perfect scenario. You're not going to take all your supplements with you. You're not going to be able to have all your gadgets and your Wi-Fi blockers and your hydrogen machine and your infrared sauna. You can't do all that. So it's like, what is the circumstance for this period of time and how can I create the best case scenario? But again, if at a baseline you're saying to yourself, it's not how, it's who, you can pick me up and put me any environment, and I'm still that same dude who's going to just create the best case scenario. So try to uphold as many of your routines as you possibly can, but don't stress it too much that you're not going to be absolutely perfect. It's just about progress, not perfection. So yeah, do your best when you're traveling. Supplements can be taken with you, and just make sure that you're doing what you can, when you can, how you can, and you'll get there. You can stay in shape in any way. I mean, there's a reason why prisoners are so jacked, right? They will literally, like, if people in prison will string together magazines with dental floss, and they're going to sit there doing curls with these stacks of magazines, or they'll put their cellmate on their back and they'll do squats with their cellmate on their back. Like, you can, where there's a will, there's a way. You'll find a way if it really matters that much to you. So it's a matter of priority, pre-planning, and then just keeping your mind right and not throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Well, I'm on the road, so I guess I'll just do nothing. It never has to be that way.
Thank you. And yes, I did witness Justin definitely walks his talk, and he was out in the front yard. I can confirm that this was really happening. And we all ate together and we ate well, right? So we were in Vegas and we were not going off the rails, right? Because that's not our job. Our job is
Yeah.
to stay on the rails so we can help people. All right. The next question is from Amanda. Hi, Justin. As a parent, I struggle with this one. How do you encourage your kids to eat healthy food? Or do you find time to cook something different for yourself if they won't eat what you're eating? Thanks so much, Amanda.
Thanks, Amanda. Yeah, that's an important question. Parenting is difficult. And in my experience, kids generally fail to listen to their parents, but they rarely fail to imitate them. Right. So the low hanging advice here is to be a leader in your household. Right. Don't do the do as I say, not as I do bullshit. Like, I don't think that works. I don't think it's particularly kind either to your kids. And I think that's across the board with vices, right? When it comes to vices, it's like, if you have a drinking problem and one of your children develops a pill habit or something like that, and you tell her to stop, she's going to turn around and just say, well, you have your thing and I have mine. Right. So that's what holds me to the course, is kind of knowing that if I slip, they fall. Right. So that's embodying the teaching, like I mentioned, and being the example. So that's number one. Show them the right way and then have the results as well. Right. If you show up and you look good and you have good energy and you're positive and you do the right things, your kids are going to see that. There's a reason why obese parents typically have kids that fall down the same rabbit hole. It's like, they're going to see what you're doing day by day, and then they're smart enough to know if it's working for you or not. Is this doing its job for my parent? If it's doing its job for the parent, then the kid is going to take root and go, oh, that makes a lot of sense, let's do that. Beyond that, more practical advice here is, I'm a really big fan of making healthy recipes that actually taste good. Right. I think that covers a lot of bases. And then finding alternatives to traditional snacks that aren't poisonous, right? Like, so for example, there's a type of blender called a Ninja Creamy, and it makes, like, you wouldn't know the difference. Like, it makes perfect ice cream as long as you do it right with the right amount of liquid and stuff. And I mean, you can use real foods. You could do like some coconut milk and some vanilla collagen, and put some frozen organic strawberries in there. And you can make ice cream that's as good as normal ice cream, but it doesn't have massive amounts of sugar and lactose and additives and this and that. So I'm a big fan of that, like going through the cupboard and finding little swaps that don't have poisonous ingredients. That's a great strategy for you. But then you also have something that you can give your kids so that they don't feel restricted. And, well, my mom's plant based, so I have to be plant based, or whatever it is. Find what's good and give them what's good, but make sure that it doesn't have poison in there. That's the best case scenario. Now, when they go to school, unfortunately, there's going to be other influences at play there, but you control the home environment, and I suggest you control it to the utmost.
Awesome. Our next question is from, or our next letter is from Rachel. Dear Justin, I'm always amazed by how consistent you are. How do you track your recovery and know when to push versus rest? I tend to either overdo it or be too cautious, and I'd love to find that balance you seem to have. Thanks for inspiring us.
Right. And I've done that before too, just this overtraining. And again, the grind mentality is there for a lot of us, or the opposite. And it's just like I can't even get up to do a single workout, let alone overtrain. So, to me, a lot of my philosophy with health coaching comes from this idea of homeostasis throughout the body. The Chinese made the yin and the yang like 2,000 years ago, and it's all about balance. If you overfill your cup, the cup's going to spill. Like I said before, you keep sharpening the knife, it's going to wear away to a stub. So this concept absolutely applies to the body and to fitness. And as I said, I mean, I move my body daily, but I will do so many catabolic workouts in a row and then take a parasympathetic day. So I don't do rest days. I do like active recovery days where I engage the parasympathetic nervous system on purpose. Yoga, breath work, massage, sauna, foam roll, cold exposure, whatever it is. And I determine when it's necessary for me to take one of these parasympathetic days by paying attention to my body. So it's pretty intuitive, and it's just like, again, if my heart rate variability is really low, I track it with an Oura ring, or if my resting heart rate is high and I'm just really extra sore and I'm brain foggy and those kinds of things, that's my body telling me something. Hey, we need to go ahead and just take a day to activate this other side of the nervous system. I also have this strategy that I really like, where quarterly throughout the year, so every 12 weeks, I do a deload week. And I take a full week off of catabolic workouts and I just go for walks. It's a good opportunity to get a chiro adjustment. And I try to unplug. I take a full week off of social media just to reset the dopamine pathway. I take a full week off of caffeine to reset the adrenaline system. And I just kind of try to reconnect to purpose, spend some time in nature, and I don't beat the crap out of my body. And doing that every 12 weeks, it's like my body knows it's coming now. So I can grind pretty hard knowing that, hey, at this point, I'm going to take a full week off, no letting myself get punched in the head or choked in the gym. So that strategy works really well also because you can build more muscle that way, right? And your body just kind of has a reset button every 12 weeks. So that works really well also. Listen to your body, right? Make sure that you're paying attention to the signals and your heart rate and different things. You'll know when it's time to take a recovery day once you get kind of more and more intuitive with the body.
Awesome. Thank you. Our next question is from Melissa. Hi, Justin. I'm trying to get my nutrition dialed in. What does a typical day of eating look like for you? And do you practice intermittent fasting? If so, what's your eating window? Would love to know more.
Thanks, Melissa. Yeah, food is pure epigenetics, right? It's information that we give our body day in and day out, and we need to make sure that we're operating in alignment with what our genes say. That's why I call it alignment with your assignment, right? We were assigned these genes, and we want to do all of our epigenetic things that we can to make sure that we're managing them correctly. And food is absolutely one of those things. It's information, and we got to give our body the right information and the right amount of information as well. So with regard to fasting, I usually do a 12 and 12 with a 24 once a week in the winter. As we get into the summer, I do more of a traditional 16 and 8. So I'll break my fast at noon, be done at about 8 p.m. I try not to eat all the way up until I go to bed, but that's really personalized. It has to kind of correspond with when you do your workout and when you have your work, right, your shift at work. So you need to be able to do it properly and make sure that you're going to sleep well and different things. Fasting is very important for a lot of people because you need to have that break, right? Sometimes your body just needs to work through yesterday's information before we pile the days on. But it is a balancing act because too many scarcity signals will start to impact your hormones and it'll raise your cortisol. And there's other things that can happen there. So we don't want to tell our bodies that there's just no food around, right? We want to make sure that we're orchestrating this properly. And I do whole sessions with people just helping them dial in their fasting window and whether or not it's appropriate in the first place for them. As far as my meals, I mean, I do typically carb backloading or carb cycling. So I really pick the times when to up the ante with starches. So I'll either go all week on kind of a low carb thing and then take the weekend to carb up. That's a really good strategy for leaning down. Or if I'm really trying to build muscle, I'll eat some starches every day, but I only do it post workout, right? So I'll hit the weights or I'll do my jiu-jitsu workout or whatever it is. That next meal is going to incorporate some, whatever, some sweet potatoes or some rice. I'm a big fan of resistant starch, so I try to cook and cool these kinds of things. I have a protein minimum, right, that I try to hit every day. For me, it's 200 grams. I'm a 200-pound guy. Um, and then it's really just a matter of quality. I take all of my food and I charge it in that quantum block. I try to get everything organic, and I rinse all of my produce in baking soda and things prior to actually doing it, even though it's organic. So yeah, in a 12-hour window, I mean, I can pretty easily fit in like 3 meals a day. It's usually like a veggie omelet, and then my lunch is like Greek yogurt with collagen and hemp hearts and stuff in there. And then my meal is typically red meat, my dinner meal that is, with a salad and a bowl of fruit or something like that. I keep it pretty simple. If I'm still hungry after that, I'll have some macadamia nuts or something like that. And then my coffee, I usually put superfoods, like I mentioned, collagen, minerals, sea salt, mushrooms, kava, shilajit. I mean, you name it. There's a million things that I'll put in my coffee as well. Every meal, I try to incorporate high quality spices and superfoods and different things that I can, because I really think that each meal is an opportunity to provide our body with the highest quality nourishment that you can. And so it's an opportunity, and look at it like that. 3 times a day, I have an opportunity to give my body high quality information that it is going to use to direct my cells in favorable ways.
Amazing. Our next letter is from Lauren. Hey, Justin, this is my biggest struggle. How do you handle cravings or social situations where unhealthy food is everywhere? I do great at home, but I fall apart at parties and dinners out. Appreciate any advice.
That's really common. Yeah. And that kind of ties into the not how, but who thing as well that I mentioned. Because again, if you tell yourself it's about who you are and you embody what you're talking about, the message, then it doesn't matter where you go, right? You're going to be in any situation and still be yourself. But I get it, because at home, you can really control the environment more so than in social scenarios. It's a really interesting thing that when it comes to social situations, we gather and then make it about vices a lot of the time, right? It's like, we're going to get together at so and so's house and have drinks, or we're going to meet here and have appies. It's a strange thing that it becomes about the vice, the food, the drinks. That's what we're gathering for. We're surrounding the bar, or we're surrounding whatever it is. So a strange thing happens when you kind of step away from that. Like when I became sober, for example, and I realized now it's just about time with my people. Hey, we're going to get together and have drinks. Well, if I show up and don't have drinks, now I'm actually the present one. And I'm just here because I love my people. Right. So it's a funny little separation that you can do. And one little thing that I tell myself to kind of keep in alignment with this is I say purpose over pleasure. Right. When it comes to cheat food, when it comes to any kind of vice or temptation, I remind myself purpose over pleasure, purpose over pleasure. And that really helps to kind of carry me through. And I know that's not the funnest answer, so I'm also going to give you a quick practical strategy here. If you're in a social situation and you end up indulging in something, food and things that you probably shouldn't have, what I would recommend is have a detoxification strategy lined up for thereafter. So let's say you go out and you have a bunch of food and you feel like crap. Well, that's a great time to do a fast the next day, right? And just clear it out. You can use different enzymes, like there's dipeptidopeptidase. That's a gluten guardian enzyme. So you can kind of soak up some of that gluten quicker. Lactase enzymes. If you had a bunch of pizza and you don't do well with lactose, you can take those enzymes and it will help to clear it out faster. Ketones, that's a great supplement for that, because you just took in way too many carbohydrates in a sitting. Well, if you can spike your ketones and then maybe do a little workout after that, you're going to transition your metabolism back to where it was. Or blood glucose disposal agents like apple cider vinegar, Ceylon cinnamon, berberine. It's a great time to do a sauna if you're going to go out and do something stupid, right? So have some sort of protocol and strategy surrounding you doing something wrong, and that will help to counteract the metabolic downsides. But beyond that, purpose over pleasure, and it's not how, it's who.
Excellent. Our next question is from David. Dear Justin, I've been debating with friends. What are your thoughts on cheat meals or diet breaks? Do you build them in, or you find they derail progress?
Yeah, that, what it reminds me of is that 80-20 rule thing that people talk about. And these are the disciplined people saying this, by the way. They're like, well, 80% of the time I eat good, and then 20% of the time I don't eat good or well. To me, that's a little bit extreme. Like that, one out of every five meals, you're going to eat like shit. Like, let's call it 90-10 and let's win a little bit here. You know what I mean? Like, I think 20% of the time to eat poorly is really not a good call. Because if I said, well, 80% of the time you're going to eat chicken salad, and then the other 20% you're going to eat this cyanide, it would be very obvious that 20% of the time you shouldn't do that. But when it comes to seed oils and these other additives and things like that, it doesn't quite occur to us because it still looks like food. So to me, it's like you got to be aware that we're talking about nourishment versus poison. Food has this amazing spectrum in 2026 where it can literally heal and help you cure diseases, not cure them, but help you to. Or it can absolutely amplify negative health conditions and it can send you down a really bad path. So, again, food is information and we need to be very aware of that and try to stay in alignment to the best of your ability. I'm not a fan of the 80-20 rule. I would prefer 95 and 5 for my clients because that's what's going to get us moving in the right direction. When it comes to indulgences, though, it's not realistic. I get it to never do it again. What I would say is that these indulgences should be surrounded by long stretches of alignment, right? If you can lead up to a cheat meal by doing all the right things, hitting your clean meals, hitting your workouts, getting your supplements, your detox, everything straight, you're going to have a lot less metabolic consequence, right? If your microbiome is healthy, your liver is healthy, everything that you're doing is in concordance with your genes, the odd hormetic poison is still going to be okay. You're not going to immediately fall off track, but you better get right back on track thereafter. And again, with the alternatives. So like I have, there's this brand called Lesser Evil that makes this popcorn, and it's air popped, and they use grass fed ghee and sea salts, and it's way lighter, and it doesn't have seed oils and bull crap in there. Or like there's brands of chips that use avocado oil and high quality sea salts and different things, and it's like just once again try to take all of your vice food and find a little swap and alternative if you can, because I'm telling you, you're not going to miss garbage nearly as much if you have something that kind of tastes like it but doesn't have the same profile as far as toxins and things are concerned. And then work out, manage your blood sugar, keep inflammation low, keep your liver healthy, your gut healthy, and you'll be just fine. But in general, I'm not a fan of 80-20 or going overboard with actual garbage food. It's garbage in, garbage out, right?
100%. All right, our next letter is from Nicole. Hi, Justin. If you had to pick just one, what's the one habit that's had the biggest impact on your health? I'm trying to focus on what really moves the needle instead of doing everything at once. Grateful for your guidance.
Okay, so the way I would answer that is to consider what's behind all of your healthy habits. So the mindset that you approach your day with is what's going to actually lend itself to the quality of every habit that you have thereafter. So I have to bring up my infamous stacking W's thing that I talk about, right? The stack and wins mindset. If you're not totally familiar with me or what I talk about, excuse me, in my coaching, there's this idea of wins and losses that I try to break the day down into, and I try to encourage people to do the same thing. So if I woke up on time and I didn't hit the snooze button, boom, I got a W. Gives me a nice little dopamine spike, and I've started the day on a win. And then I eat my healthy breakfast instead of a crappy breakfast, and I start to do all the right things. The goal is to stack W's, right? I'm trying to stack wins to the utmost to where at the end of the day, I can look back and say, look at this stack next to me of W's that I got. You can't tell me that I'm a loser because I've been winning. Look, I can show you. And the same token, you have to mitigate L's, losses, right? So again, if I come out of character with someone, if I act like a dick, if I'm not in alignment with my health protocols, I eat junk food when I wasn't supposed to, whatever it is, that's an L, and I might as well take away one of my W's for the day. So I love this strategy because it really breaks your whole day down into something that you can control, and it puts you in that driver's seat. Am I winning or am I losing with my energy, thoughts, and actions? So it's about stacking W's and it's about mitigating L's, and that makes you a winner or it makes you a loser. If you do nothing but lose and I call you a loser, I'm correct. And you have to look at your day and go, yeah, you are correct. I mean, I did nothing but lose today. right? And it's the same thing with winning. I did all the right stuff, and it reinforced in my own mind who I am, not how, but who. So behind all of your healthy strategies, if you look at it like that, break it down, W's and L's. Stack as many W's as you can. Don't lose, right? Do the best that you can. That's the best piece of advice I have, because that's going to translate to every other strategy, health hack that you could possibly have. Stack wins, folks.
Awesome. So right now I want to transition into our live Q&A, and then we still have more letters. So if we get through all of the Q&A questions that are live, we'll go back to the ones that have already been sent in. And I saw there are some questions that are in the chat. If you can all put them into the Q&A for me, so that it's organized and flows better, that would be really great. There should be a little box that says Q&A on the bottom of your Zoom window. So just go ahead and please put all of the questions in there. Okay. First question is from Susan. What are your thoughts on peptides and who do you recommend them for?
Yeah, so peptides to me, they represent a tool in the toolkit, right? And practitioners ought to have a pretty robust toolkit to work with and have an understanding of what tool is right for what job, right? And I think peptides are no different. We know that peptides, there's these sequences of amino acids that are pretty intelligent. They do different things within the body. So to me, it's like when I talk about peptides, there's first I have to say disclaimers as far as I don't think I'm allowed to officially recommend them. They're for research purposes. You can't just go to Walmart and buy BPC, right? It's not one of these things. But I think that the research is continuing to grow, and that I think they've got a lot of efficacious research behind them, and they can be absolutely used to do different things in the body. Um, I would personally look at your genes and understand where suboptimal areas are, and or I would look at lab work and understand what's going on in your body that needs that support. So there's different intake methods with peptides. You can do the injectables, which gives you the best absorption. There's certain ones you can do orally. There's patches and all kinds of stuff. To me, I think that they can unlock certain dormant areas of your physiology. And I personally do dabble in them. I cycle on and off. There's different things that I utilize, like BPC, GHK copper peptide, TB500. I'm a fan of KPV, some of these anti-inflammatory peptides. I talked about carbon 60 already, which is great for free radical clearance. There's cognitive peptides like dihexa, P21. Those are fantastic for cognition. Ipamorelin, tesamorelin, CJC. Those are all growth hormone secretagogues, and they're there for if you're trying to recover and build muscle. It goes on and on, right? There's a big list. There's even melanotan if you want to darken your skin up, and there's a lot of things you can do with peptides. I think that they're going to represent a very valuable area in functional medicine. However, I also think you should personalize it to what your actual needs are. And again, it's a tool in the toolkit. We don't want to jump on peptides and then just live like crap and eat like crap and all these kinds of things. But they can absolutely complement any other strategies. And I'm excited to see what happens in the peptide realm.
Awesome. Thank you. Susan's following up saying, did you say the vibration plate counts as steps?
Yeah. So your body thinks certain things when you move your body in certain ways. And it's not an exact one for one. Like if you were to try to wear one of the step counters and get on a vibration plate, it's probably going to be erratic and all over the place. But when you're walking, you're kind of going bing, 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 and your body is actually getting shaken up in different ways. There's actually some lymphatic drainage and things like that that happen from walking. If you're in a place where you can't do a lot of walking or you don't have time, but you spend 10 minutes on the vibration plate, physiologically, you are going to be getting some of the same benefits as if you just took X amount of steps, right? So it can supplement that, and it can be something that you can do. Like today, I didn't have time to go for a walk. I would love to be able to go for a walk every day, but sometimes it's not in the cards. So 10 minutes on the vibration plate, and my body is getting a similar stimulus, and you're getting the circulation benefits, you're getting the lymphatic drainage benefits. So it's going to compensate for part of that. I'm not saying do it instead of walking, but if you can't, absolutely, vibration will count and compensate for some of those steps that you missed.
Awesome. Cynthia is asking, she says she's not a morning person. Can your morning routine be adapted for the evening?
Yes, it can. However, the asterisk I would make there is that we want to honor nervous system regulation and circadian rhythm, right? So, as far as like the hydration and the hygiene and all those kinds of things, absolutely you can do it. I do the tongue scraping in the morning typically because overnight bacteria accumulates in the mouth, but it can be done anytime. With the brain tap, it's actually got settings that are designed for the evening. So you could absolutely do that. In fact, you should do more than one a day, and you can do a morning as well as evening. And the PEMF, you could actually do with more of a theta brainwave setting as well, which kind of just hovers you right above sleep. And it's got more of a parasympathetic activation there. So it absolutely can. I just think that the value of doing it in the morning is that this is the space you have before you approach the world, your family, your coworkers. I'm not personally someone who can approach the world without having had a little bit of time to myself to get right first. But if you're not that person, then by all means, I mean, everything I mentioned is absolutely healthy. It's absolutely something that you can do at any time of day. I just am a really big believer of starting off on a strong foot and getting your stoic armor put on prior to facing the world and doing your job, etc. You could adapt it though, absolutely. And I'm a big fan of a lot of these different hacks, PEMF, all of that is great in the evening as well. It'll probably help you sleep.
Awesome. Okay. Our next question is from Marianne. Does your significant other also do these techniques?
As much as possible, yeah. She's no one I know is as big of a dork as I am with regard to biohacking strategies and things. It's usually me saying, "Hey, you should do a brain tap. Hey, you should do the sauna," and kind of reminding and things like that. My partner, she thinks I'm cool, I think, but again, raising a special needs individual, we don't necessarily always have time to do some of these things, and it's a matter of sneaking it in. But my lady is very much a health conscious individual, and she respects my opinion enough that if I say, "Hey, you should try this, it should help you in this area," she'll do it. And she does as much as she can. She's actually competed in bodybuilding tournaments and stuff like that, so fitness and stuff has always been one of her priorities. And yeah, she's aware that in order for us to be high quality caregivers, we have to take care of our own bodies first, right? So yeah, if she can sneak in a brain tap, absolutely. If she can sneak in a PEMF session or whatever, absolutely. Just not to the extremity that I do, and I don't think I know anybody who does.
Now, Dr. Martin might be a close second, but I think you still got her beat though. Okay. Julie is asking a question that it's about vitamin D. We can't give you a direct recommendation on how much vitamin D to take without you being our patient. But Justin, you could probably answer uh, what would be, because this different people answer this differently. What would you like to see vitamin D levels be for someone? You know what I mean? Like 30 and under, although you're in Canada, so they might do it a little bit differently there, right?
Yeah, they do. So there's different jurisdictions and stuff when it comes to actual lab levels. So I'm hesitant to actually provide like a
Fair.
nanogram per milliliter level. What I would say is that the protocol that you use, because that was the rest of the question, that's going to matter a lot for what ultimately gets that level up. And absolutely, I mean, if you have any suboptimal genetics, then the split dosing is quite valuable there because it just allows more vitamin D to work its way through to the receptor. The receptor is what matters, right? The reception of it that allows vitamin D to exert its influence on the cells. So if you have any suboptimal genes, don't do it all at once because it's not going to actually deliver properly. For me personally, in the wintertime, I do 3 a day dosing and I work up to at least a 10,000 IU dose to keep my levels right. Taking it alongside K2, like I mentioned, is valuable. Making sure that you've got enough nitric oxide with things like red light therapy. Um, and then having magnesium present as well as a cofactor there is also very important. So there's a lot to that vitamin D conversation. Um, if you were to get a coaching session or some sort of a program with one of us, we can approach that a little bit differently than we can on a live webinar.
Absolutely. Sheila is asking, what's a good carbon 60 protocol?
Yeah, so carbon 60, if you guys are unfamiliar, it is a peptide, like I mentioned, and it's a great anti-inflammatory and super duper strong antioxidant. We're friends with a company called C60 Plus, and or sorry, C60 Power, not Plus, and they've got a really good quality carbon 60, and they've also got it in different forms. So you can get it in like olive oil, avocado oil, MCT oil. They have gummies and all kinds of different stuff. So what I would say is that doing carbon 60 in the morning is a good idea because it's prior to you accumulating free radicals for the day. So I use it in the oil format, and I can actually make like a quote bulletproof coffee with carbon 60 infused MCTs. They're pretty heat stable, and MCTs are also more heat stable than olive oil or some of these other ones. So you can blend it right into really hot coffee, and I think it's a good idea. It's going to provide you antioxidant protection for the rest of the day, especially if it's a harder workout day. Then absolutely, carbon 60 is in your interest there. So you don't need to do multiple day or multiple doses per day or anything like that. Just one good dose per day provides you pretty much a 24-hour protection there. So yeah, do it like that. Do it however makes sense for you, and that you'll actually get it in. I recommend C60 Power, and the MCT format specifically is fantastic in the coffee because then it also boosts some ketone production as well. So I like it in the morning, but there's no real bad time to take it. I think there's a slight cellular energizing effect where PM dosing may not be the best protocol, though. So pay attention if you take it later in the day to your sleep metrics and things like that.
Thank you, Justin. Nelda is asking, in a previous webinar, Justin mentioned a necklace he wears. Would you please talk about it again? Thanks for all of your knowledge.
Yeah, so I really think this company is doing some cool stuff. The company is called Leela Quantum, Leela Quantum, and they're the same people that make the Infinity Block thing that I mentioned. So I actually have a couple of things from them. Um, Quick side note about Leela Quantum. So for Christmas, Leela Quantum makes these cards. They make these like frequency cards that they've actually used their technology to embed various frequencies on. And for my significant other, I bought her these cards that have prosperity and abundance frequencies embedded right into the cards. And since then, I've never seen this woman win the lottery ever. She didn't win the lottery, but ever since Christmas, she won small amounts, but with lottery tickets 4 times in a row after she started carrying these abundance cards around with her everywhere she goes. So anecdotal, but I think that there's something to this quantum energy thing, and this necklace in particular is called it's called the Heal Capsule, like HEAL. And the idea is that it emits for about 2 to 3 meters in every direction. This protective quantum energy, and it hangs right by your heart chakra. And really, it's there to help mitigate and harmonize frequencies in the environment. So I'm always on my laptop for work. I do whatever I can to mitigate 5G, Bluetooth, the Wi-Fi signals that we're so surrounded by. So this, everywhere I go, I've got this just hanging by my heart chakra, and it's just emitting high quality quantum energy in all directions, and it's touted to help protect you from things like Wi-Fi. So, Leela Q Heal Capsule, that's what it's called.
Thank you. Paula is asking, what collagen brand and healthy oil sea salt chips do you recommend?
Yes. So I'm probably going to butcher the name as far as the chips are concerned. I believe they're called Siete Foods, like Siete, and they make these fantastic cassava flour wraps, and they make like almond flour, and they basically do grain-free stuff. And they make these tortilla chips as well that have like almond flour and things, and they're really good sea salts and things as well. And they also make potato chips where they have like dill pickle and salt and vinegar, things that I just love. And those would be my primary vices as far as snacks are concerned. So Siete Foods, that's the ones that have that. And for the collagen brand, I'm not a particular Nazi about that, right? It's kind of like as long as it's coming from grass fed and it doesn't have a bunch of sweeteners and stuff added into it. Usually I use the Primal brand, right? Which would be, again, I'm a Primal Health coach, and Primal Kitchen makes these collagen peptides that are fantastic, but Organic is good. there's a whole bunch of brands out there that are perfectly fine with that. Just pay attention to what's in there and don't worry too much about the label that's on the front. I do 10 to 30 grams a day of that.
Paula is asking, what is a brain tap and what time do you go to bed?
Good question. So, brain tap is actually, it's some people hear it and they think it's like the EMT technique, with different emotional tapping and stuff. That's a great thing to do, but the brain tap is actually a device and it's got multiple modalities in one. So it uses photobiomodulation in your eyes as well as in your ears, and it uses super duper advanced binaural beats as well. It connects to an app, and you can actually select whatever it is that you want, and it pulls your brain into these different brainwave states. And they did studies on nurses actually, and they were able to increase neuroplasticity in these women by up to 70% by using this device. So I'm a really big fan of it. It's also got these meditation tracks that play over top of the binaural beats. So it's like it's just brainwashing you with positive stuff, positive messages. And because of the photobiomodulation and the binaural beats, it's actually like pulling your brain into a really suggestive state to where you actually absorb the positive messages as well. So, as far as that self talk and the wiring and things like that, it's a really valuable tool. I also use it midday to biohack a little nap, right? So, once again, I crawl onto that PEMF mat if I have time, and I'll do the theta setting, and then I'll do one of these brain taps that's really restorative for the body. And that's for any clients that I have that are like shift workers or anything, that biohack midday nap is worth its weight in gold. But check it out, Brain Tap is fantastic. Dr. Laura and I interviewed Dr. Patrick Porter. He's the one who created it. So you can look back and find that as well on our webinar series, because he goes pretty deep into the science of it, and it's a super cool gadget.
Yeah, I experienced it for the first time at A4M and I thought it was really, really cool. Lynn is asking you, do you take any other magnesium supplement or do you think Beam Minerals covers the magnesium?
For magnesium, I actually also do take a separate one. Beam Minerals is fantastic for a lot of these trace minerals and really highly bioavailable minerals, but magnesium in particular, it gets your storages get burned through really easy. Like the more stress you're under and things, you burn through it. So I like to add additional magnesium. The one I personally use is Magnesium Breakthrough from Bioptimizers. Primarily because there's many forms of magnesium and each one impacts the body differently, right? So there's like threonate that helps it crosses the blood-brain barrier better, and there's glycinate that helps you to sleep, and there's citrate that's better for your muscles and the electrolyte properties. And so each little form has different properties, and Magnesium Breakthrough has all the types. So that's why I do it that way. But honestly, any good quality magnesium is going to help your physiology, your muscles, your neurons. I mean, there's over 300 different things that magnesium does. And we did a full webinar about magnesium, by the way. It was Dr. K, myself, and I think possibly Dr. Laura as well. So check that out if you want a real deep dive about magnesium, because it's a fantastic ingredient.
Did you answer the question about the brand of PEMF mat?
No, and I also didn't answer what time I go to bed.
You
So
didn't.
yes, so thank you, Paula, for reminding me in the comments there. So I go to bed around 10 p.m. I don't always go to sleep right then, but the more time between like you falling asleep and midnight, right? So like if you can go to bed at like 10 and fall asleep, every hour before 2 a.m., especially that you get to sleep, is worth like an hour and a half of sleep thereafter. So it's a really important time block for you to do that. And I'm a really big fan of trying to shut it down early. Usually Missy goes to bed at like 9, and then we chat for an hour, and then I fall asleep thereafter. So 10 to 6 is usually what my circadian rhythm is. And I hack that in the winter because in Canada, it doesn't get light until 8 a.m. So the first 2 hours that I'm awake, I don't have natural light. So I use these BioLight things to kind of mimic the natural incandescent spectrum of the sun. And that helps to keep me in alignment and kick off the cortisol melatonin pattern that you want. So then the brand of the PEMF is it's called Higher Dose. Again, I'm not a Nazi. There's plenty of great brands out there, but this one is I like it because it's like 6 feet long, so my whole body actually fits on it. And then it's got the amethyst crystals that give you some negative ions, heats up via infrared, and then has 4 different settings for PEMF on there as well. So higher dose PEMF infrared mat is what that's called.
And there was another question about what brand of ketones you use, brand or brands of ketones you use. So I just wanted to get that one quickly.
Yeah, I personally I like the Ketone IQ, right? It's HVMN is the company there, but there's good companies like Ketone Aid is great. There's a lot of good companies now. There used to kind of not be. It's a burgeoning thing, and they used to just use like beta hydroxybutyrate or MCT oil, especially caprylic acid, right? The C8 and the C10 give you more ketones, but now the R13 butane diol that's in the Ketone IQ is way stronger. So that's my little pre-webinar thing as I take a shot of ketones because it doesn't get me like stimulated or too up, but it just kind of provides me some mental clarity and a little bit of social talkativeness that's valuable as well. So that's the brand that I like. Tastes awful, but it works really good, just like Buckley's, right? Tastes awful and it works.
So I'm going to hop back into our letters, but some of them you've kind of touched on. So there are a couple that we really haven't gotten into at all. Olivia is asking, "Hi Justin, I'm curious about optimization. Do you do any regular blood work or testing? What biomarkers do you actually track to make sure you're on the right path?"
Yes, so there's a lot of markers out there, right? And it's really about which ones are going to be functional in their interpretation. You also have to be aware of the population metrics that they're using to kind of say whether or not you're in a normal range. So there's a lot of markers that I'm a fan of. For example, there's one called urinary bile acids (UBAs), and that's a fantastic marker for identifying liver congestion. And just if that liver is gummed up and if you're not getting proper bile flow and things like that, that's a great one. I'm a fan of one called Indican, and that is also a urinary metabolite that shows you if you have protein putrefaction going on or not. So if your body is actually breaking down its protein properly, that's a great one. 8-OHDG is the one that I utilize for oxidative stress. By the way, I'm also an FDN practitioner, so this is like where I get a lot of this from. A system of functional labs that really show you a lot of different stuff in the body. I'm a big fan of secretory IgA. That's like a gut and immune marker, so that can really tell you some interesting stuff. Zonulin, family of peptides, is a really good one for identifying if there's mucosal barrier injury going on there, aka leaky gut. What else? I like the histamine to DAO ratio as well for understanding that mucosal injury. I think that cortisol is something that doesn't get measured very well for a lot of people. Like a lot of practitioners will get you to drive to a clinic and take one blood test in the morning and say, well, your cortisol is high or it's low or it's normal or whatever. And it's like, there's so much more info that you can get from cortisol if you do a 4-point test and if you do it with saliva at home and one in the morning, afternoon, later, and then evening. That shows you what your cortisol rhythm is doing. The rhythm matters more than the absolute value, especially in the morning when it's supposed to be high. So cortisol to DHEA ratio, that's one of my favorite things to look at because that literally shows you if your body is in an anabolic or a catabolic state, right? So looking at some of these hormone testing with that functional hat on, that goes a really long way for understanding your health as well.
Awesome. Jennifer's asking, "Hey Justin, I have such a busy schedule and I feel like I'm always choosing between work and health. How do you balance your health goals with a busy work schedule without burning out? Appreciate you," she says. To which I would also add parenting. Like, how do you juggle those three? It's like three full-time jobs you're juggling, Justin. So how do you how do you do that?
Yeah, self love is self investment, right? So it's like when you actually take time to give yourself what you need, it's like when they say that if the boat is sinking, well, whose life jacket do you put on first, yours or your kids? Well, yours, because that's what grants you the opportunity to help others, right? So finding those pockets of time and just really prioritizing yourself for everybody else, right? The greatest way that you can honor the universe and your ancestors is by making the most of yourself for yourself and for everybody else. So to me, it boils down to a habit stacking, right? Again, that biohacked nap. I'm accomplishing a bunch of stuff by doing a brain tap with the Apollo and with this on and on the PEMF mat. I find little ways to make sure that I'm doing a bunch of stuff for my health at once. The other thing is that I think having a mandatory wake up time is one of the main things. And it doesn't have to be 4 a.m. or something crazy, but understand that if you sleep in and you have to approach the day now all willy nilly, anything that comes up is no longer in your control, and you're going to have to react to the day instead of create the day, right? So try to be a creator more so than a reactor. And if you have a specified time that I go, okay, if I am out of bed at this time, it's going to grant me that space, that wiggle room where I can apply my health goals. And then I can serve everybody else thereafter. So that's why I'm such a big fan of morning routines. So it's about prioritization and the ability to troubleshoot and then mastering each day, right? This is when I wake up. Tuesday, Thursday, I do this. Wednesday, Friday, I do that. And just doing your best to plan your day out. And then it's just habit stacking and keeping your mind right. You'll get everything in if it's a priority. Also, energy leaks. Pay attention to your I'm talking psychologically, your energy leaks. I know so many people that have this otherwise productive day, but in between everything that they do, they go on social media. And it's like, what? The government did what? And they're just constantly referring back to this, and it's an energy leak, right? This is actually cumulative time that you should be spending on spending your own time wisely. There's metrics that you can use to see how much time every week you spent on Instagram, for example. And it may seem like you're just switching back and forth to it really quickly, but cumulatively, by the end of the week, it's hours, right? And that is something our ancestors didn't even have. So it's like nowadays we've got to kind of moderate that. I have pretty strict rules for myself surrounding social media because it is a vice, it is a dopamine binge. And sometimes you've just got to unlock from the matrix for a little bit and say, okay, I'm going to focus on my own energy, thoughts, and actions. And then you'll be way more productive if you don't let these energy leaks happen. Or mentally, how many times do you sit there and ruminate about some argument you had in the third grade and fantasize about what you should have said to the guy? You know what I mean? There's these energy leaks that happen all throughout the day. And if you can control that mental narrative, you'll find space. All of a sudden, I have time and I can replace nonsense with productivity, right? So just being objective and honest with yourself about what time you're wasting and what time is actually valuable.
Awesome. I think we have time to squeeze in one more. Um, Catherine says, "Hi, Justin. You've been at this for a while now. How has your approach evolved over the years? What did you used to do that you've changed your mind about or didn't think was a good idea that you do think is a good idea now? Always learning from you."
Thanks, Catherine. Real science and people who actually care about the world are not dogmatic, and they're absolutely willing to change and adjust and even admit if they're wrong. I've had to tell people who I was like, you need to go on this keto diet. It's the perfect human diet, and everybody should be on keto forever and ever. And it's all about taking in fat and never ever having grains. And then later, I had to be like, sorry, man, I don't think that way anymore. That probably isn't that you can do it for a short period of time, but I don't think that that's the be all end all. So I used to be, all right, I followed the Canada Food Guide, and then I went keto, and then I went primal paleo. And now I've arrived at this hybrid, and the real kind of shift is that now I look at food very differently. Like I don't look at it like this is healthy food and this is unhealthy food. It's really the person that is the variable now, because the intrinsic value of the food can still have a totally different biological effect on you based on your biochemistry, right? Your hormones and your enzyme activity and your microbiome status and things like that. So I used to be like, when I did keto, I was like, keto is the way. And then I did paleo and I was like, paleo is the way. And now I'm like, there is no way. There's just us, right? And there's just things that are going to work better for me and not so much for you or vice versa. So I used to be dogmatic with diet, and now I've totally zoomed out on all of that. And it's just like, no, all of health is about you and it's about bio individuality. And I don't do that shit anymore. I just make it about the person, and I don't make it about me and my protocols and I'm the coolest coach because I say this diet works. No, it's about you now. So that's a perfect way to cap off this webinar about me now saying, now it's not about me. Let's shift it back to you guys And I'm so glad you guys all showed up here tonight. It's an honor. Almost all of you stuck around too, which to listen to me ramble for 90 minutes is it's amazing. So I'm really appreciative for all of you. I hope you guys learn from me, and I will continue to show up as my best self so that I can serve others and uplift all of you. And just I'm honored. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Justin. I know I learned a lot. I'm sure that our audience learned a lot too. Once again, there's a booking link if you'd like to book a session with Justin, and there's also the email if you need some time to pay for that. There's the payment plan. So thank you all so much for being here, and we'll see you either tomorrow or next week. I don't really remember oh, tomorrow's DNAU. So that's for practitioners. And we'll see the rest of you who are not practitioners next week. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. See you guys next week.